Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Well, welcome to the new week on this Monday afternoon. My name is Joe Kelley, thus the Joe Kelley Show. We got a lot to unpack here tonight. I'm excited to be back here with you on a Monday. We're going to talk about recreational marijuana. There is a very disturbing deep fake video of Vladimir Putin that aired in Russia. And if something like that aired in the United States, I think we would all be freaking out, especially if it was Vladimir Putin. But if it was our own president, you get the idea. Target, the big retailer, basically wants to get rid of Mount Rushmore. And I will explain that further in depth for you coming up here on the Joe Kelley Show as well. But I want to start off with, and I don't know to what extent you're aware of this, but on Friday in Sacramento, California, a number of migrants, 16 of them, from Colombia and Venezuela were dropped off at a church in Sacramento on Friday. The migrants entered the United States through Texas. They were transported to New Mexico and then flown by a charter plane to California's capital. And evidently, it was us, you and me, the Florida taxpayers, who paid for this. California's state attorney general has called out Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, tying him to the flight of South American migrants who arrived in Sacramento on Friday, saying, while this is still under investigation, we can confirm these individuals were in possession of documentation purporting to be from the government of the state of Florida. While we continue to collect evidence, I want to say very clearly, state-sanctioned kidnapping is not a public policy choice. It's immoral and disgusting. You guys will recall the last time that DeSantis did this, he spent $1.5 million last year to send a plane full of migrants to Martha's Vineyard. And I, at the time, said I'm not a fan, not a fan of Florida taking this measure. None of these migrants were ever in Florida. And I know that you want to be president of the United States, but at the moment you're just, I'm putting that in quotes, just the Florida governor. And so decisions should be made for what's in the best interest of Florida. And I don't get how flying migrants that never set foot in Florida to Sacramento, California, I don't get how that is beneficial to the Florida people, to you and me. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. I am not opposed to flying migrants to these sanctuary cities. I don't mind Texas flying them out. I don't mind Arizona flying them out. I don't think California's flying them out. But Texas most certainly is. But why in the world, what is in our interest in Florida by having Governor DeSantis pay out of our pockets, not his pocket, out of our pockets, to move migrants from New Mexico to California? I mean, it was $1.5 million to fly a plane load of migrants just to Martha's Vineyard. So I can't imagine how much this cost to transport all these migrants. But I think what Governor Abbott is doing in Texas, frankly, and I was skeptical at first, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant, though it is not having the net effect, the desired effect. It may at some point, but it is currently not having the desired effect. The desired effect is to make these other sanctuary cities grab enough attention that the president would finally step up and do something about the border. But we all know that the president has no interest in doing anything about the border. The president probably doesn't even know that the border exists. So whoever's pulling the strings on the marionette puppet puppet that is Joe Biden. I mean, it's not working as far as having them finally close the border, but it might, and it is certainly spreading the pain around. And I think we can all get a good laugh that these so-called sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are a bunch of hypocrites because they don't want any more people coming to their cities or states. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. If you'd ever called a radio show before or a talk radio show, you're welcome to call mine, and I promise to take good care of you, treat you nicely, treat you with respect. That's something that's very important to me, and I tend to mirror the attitude of the callers. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. If you're not nice to me, I probably won't be very nice to you. But being nice is kind of important as far as I'm concerned. So you can join me now, 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. So the Kremlin today, this is really frightening. In Russia today, there is a broadcast with Vladimir Putin on TV and radio, and this appeared in multiple cities in Russia, most of which border Ukraine. Now, I know very few of us speak Russian and won't understand what he is saying. So that's Vladimir Putin. He was on TV in Russia, but the deal is it wasn't Vladimir Putin. It was a hack and a deep fake video. And in it, the message said that there was a national military mobilization and that Ukraine's armed forces had invaded Russia and encouraging Russians to flee from the border of Ukraine further into Russia. You know how scary that is? The thought of that, of people falling for those things. Why and why wouldn't you? I mean, these deep fakes are so good. Why wouldn't you fall for that? I am really freaked out by deep fake videos. And I saw a video of Ron DeSantis today, and I had to look at it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, God, I can't tell if this is real, if this is really him saying this, or if this isn't. And that's the future. Welcome to the future. You'll never be able to know ever again if something is real or if something is generated in a computer somewhere. Let's go to Chris, who's joining us in Deltona here on the Joe Kelley Show. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, man, you're going to be hungry again in an hour. Don't worry.
Chris, you're good. Yeah, that's Chris. Chris is in our chat room, by the way, on the Facebook page. And I told everybody in the chat room that I ate way too much of a dinner about a half an hour ago, and I am so stuffed. I'm uncomfortable right now, and I just want to take a nap. And you're right. I'll be hungry in about a half an hour.
Yeah, so we don't border Mexico.
Right.
So, but Texas, they do, so they know what's coming in, But we don't know what's going to be shipped to us, or maybe we do. And Big Daddy D knows about it, and he's like, heck no, let's protect us and ship them to a sanctuary city, skipping that middle ground. You know what I mean?
But you remember when the Biden administration was doing these red-eye flights, the dark of night flights, and they were relocating immigrants to Florida and to other states. I mean, they were flying them around the country. Now, in that scenario, I would wholeheartly agree if those people just got off the plane from a Biden plane flying into Florida, and they're undocumented immigrants, I would absolutely put them right on another plane and fly them up to Martha's Vineyard or to Washington, D.C. or New York or Chicago. Chicago's too dangerous, honestly. I would wish that on my worst enemy. I wouldn't send anybody to Chicago. I was getting a call today from Chicago, and I was like, do I answer? I might get shot. I read that there were 51 more shootings in Chicago over the weekend.
That is ridiculous. But, yeah, I don't know if it's more like fiscally, responsible just to do it the way he's doing it. Money, that's a lot of money to bring people over to here just to send them right back out. So,
and I just feel like, because as you said, we don't border any country, and we don't border but one or I guess two states. I feel like we don't have a dog in the hunt in that case then. Because they're not coming here. And if they do come here, I mean, if we find, and we have created these new laws that kick in July 1st that is going to drive immigrants out of the state anyway. And right now there are a whole lot of business owners and others that are absolutely tripping about this. And they're trying to get that law reversed so that immigrants will be able to stay here and hold jobs and everything else like that. But
just they're not vetted. They're not vetted people that we know that they're not, don't have history of, crime we don't know anything
about anybody that's coming across our border, but where we do have migrants are I hate to say the term, but boat people who come here by boat from Cuba, from Haiti, from the Caribbean, other islands and stuff. I mean, so we do have people that do hit our shores, but those are the complicated rules, especially from Cuba, complicated rules on repatriating people like that.
Yeah. Well, it's good to talk this out. I like it.
Thank you, Chris, so much, man. I appreciate you calling and great talking to you. And thanks for joining us again in our chat room on the WDBO Facebook page. Again, 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. And let me know what you think about that. Recreational marijuana is getting closer to being on a ballot here in the state of Florida. Recreational marijuana. So there is a group here in Florida that went out and got signatures required for a referendum vote, and they got more than enough signatures. In fact, I think they had like 100,000 more signatures than they needed from people who want recreational marijuana in the state of Florida. What do you think? You think we should bring, if Florida did it, we would be the 22nd state that legalized marijuana, recreational marijuana. And I can tell you, after having gone to Denver a few months back, where, of course, they were the first state to legalize recreational marijuana, it didn't seem overwhelming to me. Honestly, I've been in New York City, and everywhere you walk around, you smell weed everywhere. But Colorado, Denver at least, it wasn't like that. I just didn't get that. I didn't get that vibe. And I think weed is so commonplace these days. John Mulaney has a funny bit about that, and I'll actually play part of it for you coming up in a minute, about how the government is now allowing states to legalize weed. So if this is on a ballot in 2024, will you vote to approve recreational marijuana, or will you vote to reject recreational marijuana? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Still looking at huge delays heading into Lake County right now. The crash on the Turnpike northbound at mile marker 276. We do have some good news. All lanes were blocked. They've moved the vehicles to the right shoulder. The medical crews have just left the scene, so they've reopened both lanes. Brake lights still, they start after 429 in Orange County. It's very, very heavy. Lots of patience required on the Turnpike northbound heading into Lake County this afternoon. Also have a crash I-4 eastbound in the express lanes just after Princeton. This report sponsored by Fresh from Florida. Shoppers, your local farmers are letting you know Florida watermelon is in season right now. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com from the Florida Department of Agriculture. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Crock.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Hey, Joe, just a quick question. if they did legalize marijuana, wouldn't the state of Florida benefit? Wouldn't they tax it?
Yes.
Just wondering.
Yes, absolutely so. Can you hear the turn signal clicking in her? Either that or she's a piano teacher and she has a metronome, right? She could be sitting at a piano and she has a metronome there. I hear everything in the background. It drives me crazy. And it's the same with fine print on TV. My eyes are instantly drawn to the fine print on TV, which is why I can no longer watch shows with subtitles because I just read the whole show. So there you go. That's my story, and I am sticking to it. My name is Joe Kelley, and we are talking about recreational marijuana and these flights of immigrants. Now, I should put a caveat that it is thus far just California saying that Ron DeSantis is responsible for the flight. But a flight of migrants were dropped off in Sacramento, California on Friday, and they had flown from New Mexico to Sacramento. And according to the California officials, if they are to be believed, and I don't think we've heard any word from Ron DeSantis on this yet. I'm sure someone will ask him. But they believe that it was Florida that sent that flight. And if that's the case, I'm against that. I think it's bad. I think it's a bad idea because these people weren't in Florida. And last I checked, while he is running for president, he is currently just the governor of Florida. So I don't get spending Florida's money to help New Mexico get migrants out of their state. Let's go to Orlando, where Murali is joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show. Hi, Murali. How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Wonderful.
I've been listening to you forever.
Oh, thanks.
No, seriously. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling. I ate too much of a dinner, but aside from that, I feel great. I'm stuffed.
That's okay. You love your pasta.
I do love pasta. Yes, you do listen.
Listen. I'm from India. I grew up born and brought up in India. My wife is from Brazil. My daughter, she's 90 years old. When it comes to the immigration side of it, what DeSantis is doing, in a way, it's correct. In a way, it's wrong.
Okay, explain that.
Okay, when you come in as an illegal immigrant, even come in as a tourist visa, if you overstayed for a week, and you're banned. That's how I met my wife. She's from Brazil.
I'm from here. Right, but you said it was good and it was bad.
Yes, on the legalization side of it, you have to respect the law. Even
totally agree with you. Absolutely.
Legally it's wrong, 100%. And okay, and then it took about close to 7 years for me to bring my daughter back from Brazil to over here.
Yeah, it is certainly a messed up system, Murali, and I'm sorry you hear the music there, which means I've got a hard break. I got to let you go. Thank you so much.
I got you. I got you. I got you.
All right, man. I'll see you. Thanks for calling. We'll get more of your calls and open mic comments coming up straight ahead. Stay with us here on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Still looking at these huge delays heading into Lake County this afternoon. A crash on the Turnpike northbound at mile marker 276. All of the vehicles are now on the right shoulder. This includes a big rig. They did have all the lanes closed for quite a while, just about 30 minutes. But now it still hasn't fully recovered from this. A 7-mile backup that starts just after 429. We also have a crash on I-4 eastbound in the express lanes just after Princeton, causing some brake lights there. This report sponsored by Mattress Firm. Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale is here. Save up to $500 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets and get a $300 instant gift. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Hey, Joe, if you ask me, it's money well spent. I'd rather ship them than feed them, house them, provide their education or medical. See ya.
Thank you so much for your open mic. If you're just joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show, we've got a couple of topics that we're working on. One of which is California claims that a plane full of migrants, 16 migrants from Colombia and Venezuela, were dropped off at a church in Sacramento on Friday. The California officials and Governor Gavin Newsom say that they believe that it was Florida and or Governor DeSantis that sent that plane. But the plane didn't come from Florida. It literally had nothing to do with Florida. And that being the case, I don't support those flights, not on Florida taxpayers' dimes. I don't support that at all. And we're also talking about legalizing marijuana, recreational marijuana. There are enough signatures on a measure that would potentially put it on the 2024 ballot. So if you walk into a voting booth and you've got a question there that says, should you legalize or should Florida legalize marijuana, recreational marijuana, would you vote yes or no to that? You got to let me know right now at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Here's John Mulaney, comic John Mulaney, on how we got here and the legalization of recreational weed.
The weirdest thing when I was like a kid was how much they scared us about smoking weed. They scared us about it constantly. And I've been on tour this year. Marijuana's legal in like 18 or 19 states in some form or another. It's insane. Yeah, well, all right, don't woo if you're white. It's always been legal for us. Come on, sir. We don't go to jail for marijuana, you silly Billy. When I was arrested with a one-hitter at a Rusted Root concert, I did not serve hard time. I think I got an award. 18 or 19 states. And by the way, I agree, it's a very good thing. But it's also a really weird thing. Because this is the first time I've ever seen a law change because the government is just like, fine, you know? I've never seen it before. Like gay marriage and healthcare, we have to battle it out in the Supreme Court and be like, gay people are humans, and they're like, we'll think about it. But with weed, it was just something we wanted really badly, and we kept asking them for 40 years, like, excuse me. And then suddenly the government became like cool parents, and they're just like, okay, here, take a little. We'd rather you do it in the house than go somewhere else, blah, 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 blah.
John Mulaney there. All right, let's get to some of the comments here.
I would vote for recreational marijuana. There's a lot worse things out there than that. And times, they are a-changing.
I mean, it seems like alcohol is a bigger problem than marijuana is, and we tried prohibition, and that didn't work out real well, if memory serves. Triple Team Traffic now. We got a couple of problems on the drive as Paul Cross plugs
The Joe
us
Kelley
into-
Show on WDBO. Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
All right, there's another thing, Joe. I don't recall anybody having a few hits of marijuana and getting into a fight. You know, you have a few drinks and you want to get all violent and fight and show, but I've never experienced the other way around on that.
Yeah.
What we are experiencing now is a lot of mellow. Huge delays heading into Lake County. A crash on the Turnpike northbound, mile marker 276. Got a big rig, a couple of cars, a police car, a road ranger. All lanes were blocked. They did open them up. The vehicles are now there on the right shoulder, but we still have about a 7-mile backup to start just after 429 as you make your way into Lake County. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
844-580-WDBO or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app.
Hey, Joe, if you ask me, it's money well spent. I'd rather ship them than...
All right, I think we heard that one already, didn't we? Let's take a listen to this.
Tona, I think it's great that we ship them from New Mexico to California rather than letting them get all the way here to Florida and then shipping them. That would be more expensive. It would be reactive rather than being proactive. I think this gives them a word. Hey, you come here to Florida, we're going to fly you out. See ya.
And if there was evidence that they were going to come to Florida, then yeah, maybe there's something to that. But if they weren't coming to Florida, then why is Florida involved in this? Why we don't have a dog in the hunt on this one? Mark in Winter Haven is on WDBO. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Joe. It's not the first time I talked to you.
I'm glad you
called.
called.
The reason we got a dog in this fight is, for one, we've already decided to send some of our troops, our officers in there to help them, because eventually they're going to come this way. So, and the other thing, Gavin Newsom's just making noise because he knows he cannot get in the presidential race if Ron DeSantis is in there, because he knows he has no chance of beating him.
I don't think Gavin Newsom has any chance of beating anybody on the presidential stage.
No, but he thinks he does.
Perhaps he does. Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate your call. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the app.
A couple quick things, Joe. One, if I'm not mistaken, it was allotted for in our budget for the state.
It was.
Two, it keeps them from coming to the state. And three, it continues to keep the pressure up on these states to make sure they do the right thing.
Right, and I understand that, and the flights in general, the flights to New York and to D.C. and to other sanctuary cities and states, I think that's an effective and smart thing to do for Governor Abbott. I don't know that it's an effective or smart thing to do for Governor DeSantis, because the migrants aren't coming here. They're not here, so it just doesn't make any sense.
Joe, this thing about the people in California accusing Governor DeSantis of flying people into their state, between me and you, I don't believe a word of anything that comes out of that state as far as their government officials are concerned. That's all I got to say.
And again, you may well be right. This may be just California to making this up, but boy, that would be a hell of a claim to accuse Ron DeSantis of sending this flight there if they didn't have good evidence to support that.
I have to disagree. I say bust the immigrants out. I mean, they are overtaxing our welfare system and also our foster care system. So bust them out or fly them out. Either way, I don't care. Carpool, whatever. We don't want them. Let them go somewhere else.
Right. When you say bust them out, I mean, that's the key. Bust them out of where? Because we're not busing them out of Florida. We're busing them out, in this case, flying them out of New Mexico. And that doesn't make sense to me. 844-580-WDBO. Ray is in Orlando, putting the Ray back in. Oh, is it Kay? I'm sorry, it's Kay. Hi, Kay. How are you?
Hi, Joe. I want to agree with you on our governor. He has no business flying the illegals elsewhere. Also, he shouldn't be using our money to fly all over campaigning. The same is true with him saying, passing the law that said his itinerary could be kept secret from us. That's also our money. It drives me crazy that he has several times when he's talking to somebody and someone criticizes him, he started saying, I'm just doing the will of the people of Florida. No, he isn't doing the will of all of us from Florida. I voted for him. But there just isn't any checks and balances in Tallahassee. He's therefore anything he wants to do, he can do.
Well,
I mean, the book ban issue too is ludicrous. Teachers are fleeing their teaching jobs, and if we don't have decent teachers for our students, that's doing a lot more damage than a student reading a book. I mean, I'm old, and I'm sure back in the Stone Age when I went to school, there were naughty books in the library.
Well, may I ask, have you seen some of the books that are in question?
I have read some of them, and
I mean, these are books that were in elementary schools that have animation. It's their drawings,
right? But I agree with that. I agree with taking them out of the lower grades. Absolutely, those kind of books I do. But I just think that we've maybe gone overboard on some of these things, and right now, and I guess this is what's riling me up, instead of him staying home, I mean, he's got a year before election. Instead of him staying home and taking care of the real needs of Florida, I got my renewals for my insurance last week. My home insurance went up $1,800 this year. Yes, I have a small house. It went up $1,800. My car insurance went up $800. I've called now for 3 or 4 days trying to get rates, and I'm hearing the same story. So many insurance companies are not now selling home insurance. They just can't because people can't afford it, and the ones that do are astronomical, and you have to have all kinds of inspections. And, I mean, these are things that every single person in Florida is facing now, and he just is not addressing the things for the people of Florida that need taken care of.
Well, and I know that he can walk and chew gum at the same time, but you are correct that for all intents and purposes, we're not going to see a whole lot of our governor in the next year and a half, and he's not going to be in the state a whole lot for the next year and a half. And
I just feel
and a lot of what you brought up is related to campaign financing and campaign reform issues. And, I mean, there are very strict federal, state, and local rules about campaign financing and how planes get funded, for Governor DeSantis to fly around, for his transportation, for his security. I mean, these aren't things that he or any other candidate really can skirt or cheat. Because the laws are very well established and there is accountability for it. 844-580-WDBO. Kay, thank you so much for your call. I'm glad you're listening. We'll continue with more of your calls and comments coming up next.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Been a very challenging afternoon if you're heading into Lake County from Orange County on the Turnpike. I'm now seeing delays northbound that start at the 408 and continue all the way up to about mile marker 276. That's where we have an earlier crash there still now on the right shoulder with a big rig, a police car, a couple of other cars, a road ranger, all on the right shoulder, but traffic really basically at a crawl there this afternoon. We also have a crash on I-4 eastbound after Princeton, and that's causing some brake lights out of downtown. This report sponsored by Fresh from Florida. Shoppers, your local farmer letting you know Florida watermelon is in season right now. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com from the Florida Department of Agriculture. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Your next chance to win the WDBO payroll payout of $1,000 happens tomorrow at 8 a.m. during Orlando's morning news. Just listen for the keyword and then tap the payroll payout button in the WDBO app.
$1,000. $1,000.
Get paid just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
All right, we're talking about whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana in the state of Florida, and we're talking about a flight that showed up on Friday in Sacramento, California. And the Californians, at least, claim that the flight was funded by or arranged by Governor DeSantis and or the state of Florida. So those are our two topics right now, and you can join us at 844-580-WDBO.
I still can't understand how a state can make something legal like marijuana when it's federally.
Yeah, that's a really good question, a really good concern, because federally marijuana is still an illegal drug. And I was just reading today that the ATF in Michigan was saying that if you're on medicinal marijuana, you cannot have a gun. You can't carry a gun. You can't purchase a gun. You can't transport a gun. Even if you have a legal prescription, you're not allowed to have a gun. Laurel, here, listen to this one, okay? Listen to this open mic. I'm certain this guy is in the shower when he calls us. Okay, listen to the water.
People are going to do what they want to do. Marijuana, it's been taboo for so long, okay? And there's certainly pros and cons to it. People with anger issues might chill out more on it. There are positives and negatives to it. And there is a reason why it's called dope. You know what I mean?
So I don't know if he was in the shower or maybe just standing over the sink or something.
That sounded like a shower to me.
It did, didn't it? So maybe he was getting ready to shower or something like that. Marie in the chat says he's cooking bacon. So maybe that's it. Maybe he's cooking bacon. Okay, you don't want to miss the next hour. Target wants to get rid of Mount Rushmore. They want to shut down Mount Rushmore. Target, right? The retail giant Target, the controversial lately retail giant Target. That'll be coming up next. Stay there.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Been monitoring this real big problem on the Turnpike northbound heading into Lake County right now. I've still got it on the screen. All the vehicles still on the right shoulder. This includes a big rig that was involved in an earlier crash, and they had all lanes closed. Now you have both lanes open, but of course, out of courtesy, vehicles are getting over into the left lane and getting away from this. So it's kind of still siphoning into only one lane, and that is causing the backup to get worse now before the 408. This is where the backup starts. It's about 9 miles now of brake lights heading into Lake County, and that's bad news for Laurel. Oh, terrible news for Laurel. This report sponsored by Fresh from Florida. Shoppers, this local farmer's letting you know Florida watermelon is in season right now. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com from the Florida Department of Agriculture. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Having a discussion here about this, looking at the cameras, it's pretty bad still on the Turnpike northbound heading into Lake County from Orange County. You're going to find brake lights starting before you get to the 408, and this is going to continue all the way up till about mile marker 276. We have a crash that's now on the right shoulder. And, the law is if you see vehicles like this on the right shoulder, you're supposed to get over. So all of these people are merging into the left lane, which means both lanes are technically open, but they're just getting over into that left lane. And this has traffic really backed up, again, heading into Lake County. Also, a police officer just arrived on the scene, a crash I-4 eastbound after Princeton, but they are both vehicles with the police officer on the left shoulder. Having tech issues? No worries. Visit Refresh Computers, Central Florida's budget computer store. Visit Refresh Computers in Longwood or at refreshcomputers.net. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Breaking news to lively debates, covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
All right, we are talking about whether or not we should legalize recreational marijuana here in the state of Florida. We're also talking about the immigrant flight. It was a flight that went from New Mexico to Sacramento, California, and at least the people in California are saying that they believe that the flight was arranged and paid for by Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, let me throw another issue into the mix here. This is another Target story, but this one has nothing to do with the transgender or LGBTQ community or anything like that. Target has been funding a group that wants to shut down Mount Rushmore, believing it to be an international symbol of white supremacy. And the same group wants to demilitarize the violent U.S. military. What? Why would we demilitarize the military? So Target's nonprofit foundation has funded the NDN Collective. I wonder if that is a play on words, Indian, NDN, Indian. So, I should point out this has to do with Native Americans. Let me finish, because otherwise that doesn't make any sense to you. But it is an indigenous-led organization dedicated to building indigenous power. The NDN Collective. That's got to be Indian, right? And that's got to be a play on words there. The NDN Collective is calling for the land where Mount Rushmore is located to be returned to the Lakota people, the tribe that had that land before we got there. According to their website, the closure of Mount Rushmore, the return of that land, and all public lands in the Black Hills, South Dakota, is our cornerstone battle. It reads, not only does Mount Rushmore sit in the heart of the sacred Black Hills, but it is an international symbol of white supremacy and colonization. To truly dismantle white supremacy and systems of oppression, we have to go back to the roots, which for us is putting indigenous lands back in indigenous hands. As for the U.S. military, the NDN has said that violence is fundamental for the U.S. to maintain its presence. And it goes on to say how they want to demilitarize the United States military. Look, I'll be the first person to tell you that we, European settlers, colonizers, we did the Indians dirty. We did Native Americans bad. And honestly, we still continue to do so. I mean, we still lie to the tribes as a nation. But for Target, and look, different organizations can do whatever they want. I mean, we have Nazis again, for heaven's sake. I mean, people have the freedom to wish that things would go away or wish that things would be different. But Target is out there funding it. Target is paying for it. Target is making donations to the Indian Collective as recently as 2022. So just last year, they donated to Target. So what do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. We'll take your calls on Mount Rushmore and Target, the Indian Collective. We'll talk about marijuana. We'll talk about DeSantis. Whatever you got on your mind tonight. Let's go to St. Cloud. Richard is joining us on WDBO. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Joe. First-time caller. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here.
2 points. Question was with regard to the recreational use of marijuana. The one thing that's always bothered me is there's no way to quantify it in the workplace to define impairment the same way that we would alcohol.
Richard, I'm afraid your phone is cutting out a little bit, but I'm getting the gist of at least the first part of your comment there, in that there's no way to quantify it at work. And even if recreational marijuana is legal in the state of Florida, your boss, your employers can still dictate whether or not you'll have a job there if you're using marijuana. Did I lose you, Richard? Yeah, I must have. Let's go to Kathy, who's joining us from Geneva. Hey, Kathy, how are you?
Hi, I'm also a first-time caller. I was just calling in about DeSantis. I think he's a wonderful governor, but I also feel that he's not controlling these insurance companies. I'm 66 years old, and my insurance went from $1,780 a month to a year to $4,200 a year. And I am having a hard time, honestly, even meeting my mortgage, because I think there should be a cap on these insurance companies. It's just crazy. I understand that, we've had a lot of hurricanes come through, but they are still making money, and they're just raking us. And I'm sure there are other people out there that are losing their homes because of this, because I'm coming close. It's just a very sad situation, and I wish somebody would address it.
Well, that's a good point, Kathy. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Thanks for calling in, making your first call here to the show, and for listening. We're really glad that you do.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for what you do for us.
Yes, have a great night, would you?
You also.
All right, thanks, Kathy. A couple of more open mics.
So you live downtown Orlando?
Yeah.
I mean, God, on the weekend, could be on the 11th floor at the balcony venue and smell the marijuana wafting up 11 floors. So I don't think marijuana should be legalized, but, you know, it's basically legalized in downtown Orlando anyway.
Well, yeah, you are not wrong about that. I cannot tell you how many times I always walk my stepdog weeknights or most nights, some nights, a lot of nights. I walk my stepdog, and there is nary a night that goes by in which I don't see someone just sitting on the street smoking weed. It's very common. And Laurel, I think I told you this story last week or the week before, but I had hopped into my elevator at where I live at the tower that I live in at 55 West. And the elevator stopped at like the 10th floor or something like that. It was going all the way down. And about 9 or 10 people got on the elevator, and they were all very joyful. And then a guy looks at me and he goes, "Hey, man, do you smoke weed?" And before I could even answer any part of a question, he jumps in my face and opens up a bag of marijuana that he had on him, and he sticks it up by my nose. He goes, "You've got to smell this." And he sticks this bag of weed up in my face. This is in the elevator where I live. And they recently, the management of 55 West recently made all tenants sign an addendum to their leases that say that they will not smoke or possess marijuana in the building. Which I'm like, yeah, right. Good luck with that, because that's not going to happen. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Tom joins us from Oviedo. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Joe. How are you tonight?
I'm wonderful, thanks.
Excellent. Great to talk to you. Hey, Joe, really quick, this Native American land thing at Mount Rushmore, I think it's kind of the toothpaste is out of the tube. You know, whether you're talking about reparations for slavery, whether you're talking about giving some kind of land back to the Native Americans. I mean, at this point, you're looking at, 100 years, 200 years, whatever. Let's let it go and let's just move on.
Yeah, but it's easy. It's easy for descendants of white Europeans to say, hey, you guys need to move on. But from their perspective, they clearly don't see it that way. They feel that they were wronged. And let's be honest, we did wrong the Native Americans. But, that was part of the colonization process and the big global land grab to colonize all available land everywhere. And, the Native Americans haven't forgotten that.
Yeah, I mean, again, but you go throughout history, whether it's, the Palestinians in Jerusalem, all over, what happened with the Roman Empire, again, it's just history.
Right.
I mean, that's human nature.
Winners write the history. Losers don't get to write the history. Winners write the history. And even if it's an ugly history, we still get to write it because we were, quote unquote, winners. I mean, because we were the ones who, if you will, defeated the Native Americans and anybody else who tried to get in our way as we colonized the United States.
Yeah, again, it's terrible.
So I guess my position is I am sympathetic to the indigenous people. I understand where they're coming from. And that's fine. I'm not going to argue with them. They're fine if that's what they want to believe and if that's what they want to accomplish. My problem is with Target funding this outfit, funding this organization.
Yeah, I agree. And, again, a lot of this stuff, we have to get some more transparency, whether we're talking about Target funding this group whatever the group is. I know we think it might be a Native American sympathizers, or whether it's BlackRock funding some of these woke groups. I mean, there's a lot of that going out there, and the people should know where their money is going. I mean, at this point, exposing Target, people will have an option to, whether to shop there or not. But again, I agree with you, Joe. We really need to know where a lot of this money is going to for some of these groups.
Tom, have a great night. Thank you so much for being a part of the Joe Kelley Show. We really do appreciate that.
I would vote for recreational marijuana. There's a lot worse things out there than that. And times, they are a-changing.
Okay. I like this one.
Joe, there's plenty of them here illegally. Florida's definitely a hotbed. There's a massive Hispanic population on the east side. More and more you'll see groups of trucks and vans filled with Hispanics, very little English spoken, not all of them here legally. I see them every morning. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, but we should regulate it somehow.
So I fully understand and agree with you that there are undocumented immigrants already in the state of Florida, and that's why it makes all the more nonsense if we, the state of Florida, are flying undocumented migrants from New Mexico to Sacramento. If we have undocumented immigrants here in the state of Florida and we want to fly them somewhere, then we should do that. I mean, that at least I could get behind. I can't get behind flying migrants from New Mexico to Sacramento on Florida's dime. That just doesn't work. 6:20 here on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Stay with us.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Red alert from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center.
Well, the biggest challenge this afternoon is northbound on the Turnpike. It's getting into Lake County. That's a problem. Multi-vehicle crash there involving a big rig at mile marker 276. Both lanes are back open, but traffic is continuing to be stop and go. More stop than go from the 408 in Orange County, and then more slowing I-4 eastbound as you make your way through downtown. This report, sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Summer essentials for $25 and under, like swimsuits, cover-ups, sunglasses, and more accessories you need right now. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at Macy's Backstage. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Your next chance to win the WDBO payroll payout of $1,000 happens tomorrow at 8 a.m. during Orlando's morning news. Just listen for the keyword and then tap the payroll payout button in the WDBO app.
$1,000. $1,000.
Get paid just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
All right, you guys, you want to hear something cute? Laurel, do you want to hear something cute?
Of course.
All right. So there's this cop who put a video up today, and he's one of those canine masters, or I don't know what they call him, but he's
canine officer.
He's a canine officer. So he's got his dog in the handler. So he's got his dog in the back of the car. He's in the driver's seat, and a fire truck goes by with lights and sirens, right? And the dog, well, here, take a listen. He's got a built-in siren.
Yes, he does.
There was a fire truck that just went by.
I don't know why it just turned off. Hang on.
Joe, there's plenty of them.
Oh, not that one.
There was a fire truck that just went by.
When he's rolling lights and sirens, he should have his dog stick his head out the window and make that howling sound.
People would pay much more attention if the dog's head was out the window.
Right? I would absolutely get out of his way so I can see the dog with his head out the window. Yes, absolutely so. All right. 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic and the WDBO app. Honestly, we have so many open mics here. Okay, I want to... Okay, this one.
California, like a lot of other blue states, say they sanctuary states. You know, illegals are welcome, free driver license, health care. So take them, not our problem.
Right. I don't have a problem with that. They send them to California. That's great. We could send the undocumented immigrants that live here in Florida to California. I would be totally behind that. But they flew him from New Mexico. These migrants never even came to the United States.
Joe, did you ever think about that?
I'm sorry, they never came to Florida.
Joe, did you ever think about that maybe Mr. DeSantis flew them out of New Mexico because he's running for president and trying to get votes out of New Mexico to help his campaign and say, hey, I'm here to work for all the states, not just Florida?
Sure. So even if that was the case, does that make it right? I mean, is that an excuse? Is that an argument for why it's the right thing to do? I not to me, it isn't. In fact, that makes it even all the more worse. I mean, if he's using Florida taxpayer dollars to fund this flight for the express purpose of winning the party's nomination, no, that is even more inappropriate.
Hey, Joe, if you can quantify marijuana impairment in the workplace, then I'd be fine with recreational marijuana. However, nobody seems to have been able to do that yet. So, no for me. Thanks.
Yeah, we have a breathalyzer for alcohol. Is there a comparable device for marijuana? I know that they've been working on something like that so that they can measure the marijuana in your blood. But I don't know that something like that has been well perfected at this point.
My question is, who makes the decision where to put migrants? What state, what city? Who makes that decision? And does the state they're going to notify them? Have a great day.
Thank you. So the state that they go to is, so far, to my knowledge, has never been notified. And that's been part of the complaint from people like the mayor of New York City and the people at Martha's Vineyard. When that plane showed up in the middle of the night, they were ill prepared for it. So that's been part of the argument about that. As for who decides where the migrants go, it really comes down to Texas. Texas has been leading the charge on this. Texas has relocated more migrants than any other state. And so they're the ones who decide where they go. There is no big governing body that decides this because this is entirely a rogue operation. It's not a bad rogue operation, but it's a rogue operation. I'm Joe Kelley, 844-580-WDBO. We'll continue with more of your calls and comments coming up next.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
So I was reading this piece in the Astronomical Journal. It's a science journal. Laurel, you still subscribe to that, don't you? The Astronomical Journal?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah,
all the time.
It's a great magazine. And they were talking about how that these scientists, these astronomers, have picked up a signal deep in the heart of the Milky Way galaxy. And scientists are zeroing in on it, trying to determine the origins of these mysterious signals. This is part of that SETI group, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Researchers suspect that the radio signals are not natural pulses from outer space, but could be signals from extraterrestrial life forms. Some experts warn, this is the sentence that gets me. Some experts warn that it is imperative that humans locate any alien civilization before they find us. What? Wait, what? That sounds ominous, doesn't it? Scientists are targeting the heart of the Milky Way because it's believed to be the zone most likely able to sustain life. The area hosts a dense congregation of stars and possibly habitable exoplanets that could safely be located in a Goldilocks zone. Live Science reports, what's more, if intelligent aliens at the core of the Milky Way wanted to reach out to the rest of the galaxy, they could send signals sweeping across a wide array of planets given their privileged position in the center of the galaxy. Using narrow bandwidths and repeated patterns would be a prime way for aliens to reveal themselves, because such a combination is unlikely to occur naturally. And then one of the scientists said, in my opinion, transmission of, okay, did you ever see the movie Battleship? I know it was a dumb movie. It's a kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. It was literally a movie made out of the game Battleship. You know, oh, you sunk my battleship. And it stars no one big. But still, in the movie, we, America, send a signal into deep space trying to reach out to alien life forms. And it has a terrible consequence because the aliens use that as a homing beacon and come here and invade our planet. So that's basically what this scientist is saying. He says, in my opinion, transmission of a "we are here" type beacons comes with the danger of potentially inviting aliens with unknown intentions to the Earth. In my personal opinion, he says, as a relatively young species in the grand cosmic scale, it would be prudent for us to focus on listening and investigating before embarking on deliberate transmissions. So does that mean that we've never sent a transmission into space? That's kind of how I'm reading that. I really would have thought that we would have done that by now. We would have sent, this is an interesting thought too. The same scientist says that one single country should not be sending signals into space on behalf of the entire planet Earth, since it raises political and ethical considerations. You know, that's a pretty good point. It's a pretty good point. If we found out China was sending signals into deep space, wouldn't we be a little irked about that? I mean, I feel like we would be a little bit irked about that. All right, back to you on the phones in the open mics, 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Mark in Kissimmee. You're on WDBO. Hi, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You know, you talked about Native Americans and all that, okay? I'm a direct relative of Daniel Boone, okay? And I'm sure that somewhere in my lineage I have Indian blood in me. But you want to know something? And deep in my heart, I'm an American, okay? Born and bred. And that's what matters the most, okay?
Well, that's what matters to you the most.
Well, you know, if somebody is born here, they're American, okay? And like Donald Trump once said, we're not Republicans and Democrats, we're Americans, okay? And we got to act like it. And, you know, you can't just make different people's ethnic backgrounds part of their setup. You know, we're Americans. We're all here.
Well, and that would be awesome, Mark, if we all had one culture, but we don't, and we are the melting pot, and we have a lot of different cultures. And there was once a time when people would come here and try to assimilate into our existing culture. Now it's really seems more like people come here to try to create their own culture and to have their own culture here.
Hey, Joe, Mark from Winter Garden regarding the marijuana discussion. It seems most people seem to smoke marijuana, and people smoked cigarettes and died from cancer and had other health-related issues. There's a few benefits from marijuana and a lot of downfall from marijuana. I don't think they should legalize it. Have a great night.
Thank you, man. I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other, but tobacco in and of itself is not as dangerous as cigarettes. What causes cancer is all the carcinogens that the tobacco companies put in cigarettes. If you were to roll your own tobacco, grow your own tobacco, and roll your own tobacco, you would find a lot fewer health threats in that tobacco. And weed, for the most part, is just weed with no other additives. Here.
Hey, Joe, that last statement you said is not true. The White House was deciding where the migrants go. They flew and busted them to Florida. They flew and busted them to New York, Chicago. They fly them around.
Right. But see, these are two different conversations, and I did address that the White House was flying migrants as well, and it was wrong what they were doing. But we're not talking about the White House's flights. We're talking about the flights that are coming from the border, from Texas, from Governor Abbott, and sending people up to New York and Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. So it's really two different conversations.
Regarding the Native American situation, so the Indian tribe that claims that the Black Hills or whatever, South Dakota, North Dakota. It wasn't theirs when they got there. They colonized it by killing everybody who lived there prior to them, driving them off the land. It's just a hypocritical nightmare.
Were there people there before the Native Americans were on that land? I mean, that's a legit question. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, the three big things you need to know.
3. Apple has announced the release of their long-awaited AR headset, the Apple Vision Pro, which will be available for purchase in early 2024 at a price point of $3,499. This headset uses augmented reality rather than virtual reality and is compatible with Microsoft Office apps and video conferencing services. 2. Police are investigating the deaths of 6 women, all found in the same area of Oregon in the last 3 months. All 6 bodies were found within 100 miles of each other in secluded areas of woods across the Portland region. 1. Former Vice President Mike Pence is officially running for president in 2024. Pence filed the paperwork to enter the race today, joining a growing field of candidates vying for the Republican nomination.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
Joe, once again, your softness comes out. Anytime we can ship them anywhere to another state, do it. Way to go, DeSantis. You the man.
Well, honestly, you might think that's an insult to say my softness is showing. I like to think of it as compassion. I've got a lot of compassion for people, but on this issue, it's not even about having compassion. It's about using our taxpayer dollars wisely and flying someone from one state to another state, and none of those states being Florida. That just doesn't fly for me. No pun intended. But it just doesn't work.
As a die-hard conservative Christian, I support recreational marijuana.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, I get it. If people want to smoke a nasty weed, that's fine. But they have to understand is you cannot operate a motor vehicle and companies can fire you because you cannot operate machinery while on marijuana. So there are limitations. You can't just go free balling it.
Yep. No, you absolutely cannot. And you are absolutely right about that.
People are going to do what they want to do, you know.
Oh, that's the shower guy. Hang on.
I still can't understand how a state can make something legal.
No, I said we got a lot of open mics, and I'm getting them all mixed up now at this point. This is my fault, so hang on. Bear with me. Oh, suddenly this one.
Hi, Joe Kelley.
Hi.
This is Edie in Mount Dora. I just had to call and tell you what I was making for dinner.
I'm so glad.
I am making pasta, well, actually, capellini, with cherry tomatoes sauteed in garlic and olive oil with some toasted pine nuts. I thought you might enjoy that pasta dish. Have a good evening.
I would. What time should I be there? I'd like that very much, actually. It sounds delicious. What was that type of pasta? Laurel, you're like Italian or something, right?
No, I worked at Olive Garden.
Oh, okay. That's close enough.
Sure, yeah, okay.
What type of pasta was that?
I don't even remember what she said.
Here, listen.
Hi, Joe Kelley. This is Edie in Mount Dora. I just had to call and tell you what I was making for dinner. I am making pasta, well, actually, capellini.
Capellini. Is that a...
Capellini's like a thin spaghetti.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm impressed that you know that. Very good.
Yep.
Hey, Joe. My wife has a concealed weapons permit and a medical marijuana card. She was issued the concealed weapons permit after the medical marijuana card.
Yeah, that was stemmed from our discussion earlier about, that the ATF today, just today, put out a warning saying, hey, just because marijuana is legal in your state, federally, it's against the law, and you could run afoul of federal gun laws because of having marijuana.
On the issue of Native Americans, I guess people don't realize that not every tribal area or land even has running water. Some of the tribes...
The reservations are in terrible, terrible, terrible shape. Alcoholism is rampant on the reservations. I mean, they're a mess, to be sure. My name is Joe Kelley. You can look for the Joe Kelley Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning us in tonight. The third hour of Sean Hannity is coming up next.